Welcome back to the channel. Today we're following the yellow brick road to one of the most beloved and influential films ever made, MGM's The Wizard of Oz, the 1939 musical fantasy that has enchanted audiences for over 8 decades. Directed primarily by Victor Fleming, who actually left the production to direct Gone with the Wind, this $2.8 million Technicolor spectacle was a box office success but only became the cultural cornerstone we know today through repeated television broadcasts starting in the 1950s. Starring Judy Garland as Dorothy Gale, with Ray Bolger, Jack Haley, Bert Lahr, and Margaret Hamilton as the Wicked Witch of the West, the film was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, winning 2, Best Original Song for Over the Rainbow and Best Original Score, and received a special Juvenile Award for Judy Garland. Whether you're here for the iconic songs, the groundbreaking effects, or just wondering how a film that terrified generations of children became a family classic, this video will break down everything. Stick around to the end. What makes The Wizard of Oz endure as America's favorite fairy tale? Dorothy Gale is introduced in sepia-toned Kansas, a lonely farm girl desperate to escape the grey, dust-choked world she inhabits. From the first scene, we get a sense of her personality. She's imaginative, restless, and deeply connected to her dog Toto, her only true friend in a household dominated by her stern Auntie Em and Uncle Henry, and threatened by the wealthy Elmira Gulch, who demands Toto be destroyed. The film quickly establishes stakes through its inciting incident. After Toto bites Gulch, the sheriff gives him a destruction order. Dorothy, terrified, runs away with Toto, only to meet the fraudulent fortune teller Professor Marvel, who convinces her to return home. She arrives just as a tornado touches down. Unable to reach the storm cellar, Dorothy is knocked unconscious by a window frame and awakens to find her house spinning through the sky. When the house lands, Dorothy opens the door, and the screen explodes into Technicolor. She's in Munchkinland, and her house has landed on the Wicked Witch of the East. Glinda the Good Witch of the North, played by Billie Burke, arrives. The ruby slippers transfer to Dorothy's feet, and the Wicked Witch of the West, played by Margaret Hamilton, swears revenge. By the end of this introduction, we already understand the stakes. A girl desperate to go home, a pair of magical shoes, and a witch who will stop at nothing to get them. The relationships in The Wizard of Oz form a found family dynamic that resonates across generations. Dorothy's interactions with the Scarecrow, played by Ray Bolger, Tin Man, played by Jack Haley, and Cowardly Lion, played by Bert Lahr, reveal a group of misfits who, together, become something greater than they could alone. The Scarecrow, who sings "If I Only Had a Brain," is already clever. He devises plans throughout the journey, but lacks confidence. The Tin Man, rusted solid and longing for a heart, is the group's emotional core, weeping and rusting again at every sign of cruelty. The Cowardly Lion, who sings "If I Only Had the Nerve," is the first to charge into danger despite his terror. Glinda and the Wicked Witch sort of act like the angel and devil on Dorothy's shoulders. Glinda, played by Billie Burke, is just ethereal and a bit vague, and honestly, she's ultimately withholding. She doesn't actually tell Dorothy that the ruby slippers can take her home until the very end, maybe because Dorothy needed to discover her own power first. On the other hand, the Wicked Witch, that's Margaret Hamilton, is pure, unapologetic menace. Her cackle and that green-skinned silhouette are totally seared into pop culture consciousness, and her line, "I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog too," is, well, one of cinema's most quoted threats. Now, the wizard himself, Frank Morgan, who actually plays multiple roles, including Professor Marvel and the Gatekeeper, is the film's central deception. He's just a man behind a curtain, desperate to be seen as powerful. His relationship with Dorothy really mirrors her relationship with Professor Marvel back in Kansas, a well-meaning fraud who, in the end, gives her permission to believe in herself. As the plot unfolds, Dorothy and her companions face these escalating challenges that test their courage, heart, and mind. The first key event is the haunted forest sequence. The group has to cross this dark wood where the trees literally attack them, and then they come across a field of poppies whose scent puts Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion to sleep. The Scarecrow and Tin Man, since they're not affected, end up carrying Dorothy out, while Glinda creates this snow-like substance to counter the poppies' effects. This whole sequence is visually stunning, the transition from the forest's oppressive greens to the poppies' crimson field. And it's thematically crucial too. Only those without the capacity to sleep can save the others. Then, the second key event delivers probably the film's most iconic confrontation, the witch's castle. Dorothy gets captured by flying monkeys, easily one of the most terrifying sequences in children's cinema, and she watches as the witch taunts her companions, even setting the Scarecrow on fire and threatening to kill Toto. The Cowardly Lion, despite being absolutely terrified, volunteers to be put to the test for Dorothy. The Tin Man chops down the witch's guards, and the Scarecrow, singed but still defiant, just refuses to break. The filmmakers really use pacing masterfully here. Director Victor Fleming and cinematographer Harold Rosson shot Kansas in sepia-toned black and white and Oz in vibrant 3-strip Technicolor, making that transition just a total revelation. The flying monkeys were actually real actors in suits and masks, filmed with rear projection, and their sudden, swooping attack still remains nightmare fuel for a reason. And that sequence where the witch melts after Dorothy throws a bucket of water, "I'm melting, melting, oh what a world," was achieved with Margaret Hamilton in a trapdoor, her costume shrinking as a wax dummy melted beneath her. The turning point arrives when Glinda reveals the truth. "You've always had the power to go home, my dear." Dorothy's ruby slippers, which the witch couldn't take by force, only required Dorothy to believe in them. It's the film's thesis statement, really. The journey was necessary not to find the wizard, but to discover that what she sought was inside her all along. The Wizard of Oz isn't just a musical fantasy. It's a film that wrestles with home, identity, and the illusion of external solutions. One of the most prominent themes is the journey as self-discovery. Dorothy leaves Kansas seeking escape from her problems, but discovers that Oz is just another set of problems. Witches, flying monkeys, a fraudulent wizard. The film argues that there's no place like home, not because home is perfect, but because it's where you belong. Another theme, the illusion of authority, runs through the wizard's reveal. The great and powerful Oz is a humbug, a man who accidentally landed in Oz and built a deception because he was afraid of being seen as ordinary. His gifts to the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion, diplomas, pocket watches, medals, are props that merely certify qualities they already possessed. The film suggests that external validation is unnecessary. We already have what we're seeking. The film also explores the necessity of confronting fear. The Cowardly Lion's arc isn't about becoming fearless. It's about acting despite fear. He volunteers for danger, he fights the witch's guards, and he earns his medal not by being brave, but by choosing bravery. The Wicked Witch, conversely, is destroyed by her own rigidity. She melts because water is just water, but her hatred makes it lethal. Scholars have debated the film's political allegories for decades. The yellow brick road as the gold standard, the ruby slippers as silver, at least in the original book, and the wizard as a president or industrialist. These interpretations have been discussed a lot. L. Frank Baum's original novel was explicitly populist, and the film, really does retain echoes of those themes. But what endures isn't the allegory, it's the emotional truth. As Salman Rushdie wrote, The Wizard of Oz is a film whose driving force is the inadequacy of adults. Some fascinating details behind The Wizard of Oz make the experience even richer. The production was famously troubled. There were multiple directors, costume changes, and the casting of Judy Garland at age 16 after Shirley Temple was deemed too expensive. Garland was made to wear a painful corset and rubber teeth caps to achieve the desired look, and was given amphetamines to keep her energy up and barbiturates to sleep, beginning a dependency that would, sadly, plague her life. The Wicked Witch's makeup was toxic, copper-based paint that could, if left on too long, cause Margaret Hamilton's skin to turn green permanently. She also suffered second-degree burns on her face and third-degree burns on her hand during the melting scene's first take. The Cowardly Lion's costume weighed nearly 100 pounds, made of real lion fur, and Bert Lahr nearly suffocated inside it. So, here's a bit of fun trivia for you. The snow in the poppy field scene was actually pure asbestos. The crew, well, they had no idea about the dangers at the time. And get this, Toto, the famous dog, was actually a female cairn terrier named Terry, and she was paid $125 per week. That's, more than many of the human actors, believe it or not. The film's budget, which started at $1 million, kind of ballooned up to $2.8 million, and it took about 2 years to break even. But by 1941, MGM's investment had really paid off handsomely. Oh, and the ruby slippers. Originally they were silver to match the book, but they were changed to showcase Technicolor's amazing red spectrum. Several pairs still exist today, and one of them sold for $666,000 back in 2000. As the story reaches its emotional climax, Dorothy faces her final test. The wizard, who's now revealed as a fraud, offers to take her home in his hot air balloon. But as the balloon lifts off, Dorothy jumps out to chase after Toto, and she can only watch as the wizard floats away without her. The key moment arrives when Glinda appears. "You don't need to be helped any longer," she says. "You've always had the power to go back to Kansas. The ruby slippers, which the witch couldn't take by force, require only Dorothy's belief." "Just close your eyes," Glinda instructs. "Tap your heels together 3 times. And think to yourself, there's no place like home." The resolution is transcendent. Dorothy clicks her heels, the world spins, and she wakes in her bed in Kansas. Auntie Em, Uncle Henry, and the farmhands gather around her. She recognizes them, Hunk as the Scarecrow, Hickory as the Tin Man, Zeke as the Cowardly Lion. Professor Marvel is the wizard. Miss Gulch, glimpsed on a bicycle, is the Wicked Witch. It was a dream, they tell her. But was it? Dorothy's final words, "Oh, Auntie Em, there's no place like home," aren't just relief. They're gratitude for the home she tried to leave. The filmmakers intended these final moments to leave a lasting impression the journey was real, whether or not it physically happened. Dorothy returns changed, and that change is what matters. The sepia-toned Kansas that once felt grey and suffocating now feels like salvation, not because it's different, but because she is. In conclusion, The Wizard of Oz delivers a timeless, visually stunning, emotionally resonant fantasy that has earned its place in cinema history. Judy Garland is unforgettable, the songs are immortal, and the film's message, that we already have what we're searching for, continues to speak to audiences of every age. It's not without its dated elements, its troubled production, its painful history for Garland herself, but the final product transcends its origins. It's a film about home, and about the courage to return to it. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a comment with your thoughts. What's your favorite scene, and how many times have you watched it? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more movie reviews, deep dives, and behind-the-scenes insights. Thanks for watching, and remember, there's no place like home.